Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode with me, Derek, aka Sal, the Omega Enthusiast. I have accumulated over a dozen square and rectangular vintage Omega watches from the 1930s and 1940s. If you are this channel subscriber, you may have already watched episode 1 from a week ago. But if you haven't watched it yet, I will leave a link to that episode at the end of this video. Finding any information on these watches is challenging, so if you appreciate what I do, kindly smash that thumbs up like button and consider subscribing. As I mentioned in the previous episode, I am still trying to figure out a few pieces reference number. As you can see, many of these 1940s and earlier vintage Omega watches come with a case serial number instead of the actual model reference number. Watches from this era are small but looks really classy on the wrist. Fine examples are difficult to find as most vintage dress watches are not moisture resistant. That said, if you like some of these straps on the watches, I will have them for sale on my website soon. The 4 common types of manual wind movement that these early Omega carries are 23.4, T17, 20F, and 17.8. You will find that most 1930s square cases will come with 23.4, and 1940s square cases will come with 17.8. Caliber 23.4 is a round movement, and 17.8 is more of a square-shaped movement. When the watch case is rectangular, the movement will likely be a T17 or 20F. You will know a watch dealer does not specialize in vintage Omega when he gets 17.8 confused for a T17. Just like in episode 1, I will present 5 more references for this video. Keep in mind that each reference exists with a few different dial design, hand types, and dial tones. In some cases, you will find that a particular dial variation will appear in many of the references. I created a community post last week providing images on 4 other pieces that I still have issues finding the reference number. Thank you to one of the audiences who have directly contacted me to provide the reference on one of them. You will get to see that piece in this episode. The first reference I will present is really interesting, as it comes in 3 different case designs. That's correct, 3 different cases that use the same reference number, and that is CK730. So what's more interesting is that it also comes with 2 completely different movements. This is not the same as a first generation Seamaster, which comes with a caliber 351 or 354, as both are from the same series. But the 2 calibers that a CK730 uses are entirely different. If you search on the Omega Online database, it will only show you one of the 3 examples. And that is the first version where it comes with a straight bar lugs and carries an Omega caliber 20F movement. Unfortunately, I do not have that version to show you, but I have the other 2 versions, which are these 2, which takes a caliber T17 movement. Because I have a strap on both pieces, you cannot tell the 2 apart, but the right piece has Y-type lugs, while the other has regular lugs that take spring bar. Omega introduced CK730 in 1931, housing a caliber 20F, and from around 1935 to 1938, housing a caliber T17. So if you want to be specific, you can always include a period 20 or 17 after 730 to indicate which version it is. The case I mentioned measures 22.4 millimeters across, excluding the crown, by 39.4 millimeters lug to lug. The case thickness is 10.3 millimeter, including the current acrylic crystal. But if the watch came with its original crystal, it would make it about 2 millimeter thinner. Watch number 2 is commonly mistaken for a CK730 and vice versa. This case reference is under CK891 and was introduced roughly around the same time as CK730 and also has the same case structure scenario, meaning that an early CK891 case has thin Y-type lugs and carry a caliber 20F movement, and later came with a regular spring bar lugs case and takes a caliber T17 movement. If you study the cases carefully, you will see their distinct differences. CK730 and CK891 are so similar that they even have the same case dimension, measuring 22.4mm across, excluding the crown, by 39.4mm from lug to lug. The case thickness is 10mm with the current acrylic crystal. However, there is one distinct difference, and that is their case lug's width. CK730 has a 16mm lug width, whereas CK891 has an 18mm lug width, making it appear more prominent even though they are both the same case size. Watch number 3 is a very rare reference on the CK689, a model you will probably find nothing about online. So personally, I do not have much information about this watch either, other than what I can describe to you because I have one in hand. As you can see, it has an entire faceted case with hidden type lugs. It looks almost like the body of a tank, but without the turret. Initially, I have mistaken this piece for a CK690 due to the hidden lugs. According to the movement serial number, this one dates to 1935, so I assume this reference was available in the market between 1934 to 1938, like most references of that era. The case dimension on this watch measures 22mm across, excluding the crown, by 34mm from lug to lug. Remember that the original crown on these watches is unsigned, and most of the dials do not say Swiss or Swiss made. The case thickness with the current acrylic crystal is 9.3mm thick. Snap open the case back, and inside is a 15 joules manual wind Omega caliber T17 movement. And if you watch episode 1, I explain how to differentiate a caliber T17 from a 20F quickly. Watch number 4 is another piece that you may probably only find on this channel, and that is Omega reference CK3798, introduced in the early 1940s, where this piece that I have here dates to 1945. I really like this piece case design, which almost resemble a Rolex 4330 reference from the 1940s. The original unsigned crown on this watch is called a mushroom crown. A leather strap would look really nice on this watch, but due to the patina on the dial, I decided a metal bracelet matches better. What do you guys think? So remember what I said earlier? When you see a 1940s square watch, its movement is likely a caliber 17.8, which is the base movement for caliber 300, 301, and 302. As a reminder, caliber 17.8 is not the same as T17. The case I mentioned on this piece measures 28mm across, excluding the crown, by 38mm from lug to lug. The case thickness, including the glass crystal, is 7.7mm thick. The case lug width measures 16mm. The last piece in this video on the reference CK758 was created in the early 1930s and lasted until around 1935. In the old catalog, you will find this piece in the steel version on the CK758. But since this piece is in solid 14K gold, CK becomes OJ. It has Y-type lugs, so I can only install an open-ended strap on the watch. Not to mention that this will be one of the many straps I will have for sale on the site soon. What I really like about this piece is the Art Deco design on the side of the case. I have only seen this reference with Breguet index dial. The case diameter is 22.6mm across, excluding the crown, by 37.3mm from lug to lug. The case thickness, including the current acrylic crystal, is 10.2 millimeter thick. The case lug width is 16 millimeters. The snap-open case back has a hinge on one side, so the back flips open instead of coming apart. Inside, you have a manual wind Omega caliber 20F movement with 15 jewels. I hope you enjoy episode 2. If you do, smash that thumbs up button below, and I look forward to creating part 3 of the series soon. If you haven't watched episode 1, watch it afterward, as there are things I mentioned there that will give you a better understanding of some of the stuff in this and future episode. There are so many more pieces to show, and I can't wait to share them with you guys. Thank you for your continued support, and I look forward to seeing you in the following video.